This is a presentation of National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasters, 70 weekly shows, and a 3.4-star rating on Roku TV.
I don't know, Jack. It's a big decision.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying space.
Pittsburgh at Buffalo.
Thank you. I thought I was right. So anyway,
yeah, Mac, you're really interested in these playoffs.
so
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
All right, we're back. Mac and Jack on National Streaming Sports, Roku channel, YouTube, and every other place that we're on, Jack. It's Wednesday. It's the midweek, and we're ready to talk a little bit about sports. First I'll send a shout out. I did a interview with Mike Eckel he's a Cleveland Brown fan, a podcaster on Roku. He does Man Cave. He does Cheap Seats, and it was really interesting interviewing him as a Cleveland fan, Jack. And if you think of all the storylines that are with the Cleveland fans, right? The Browns not going to Super Bowl, moving to Baltimore. You think about the Indians changing their name to the Guardians and haven't been in a World Series in 30 years or 40 years, something ridiculous.
It's 1950. And so, well, they were there in 1997. Yeah.
But having won one like the longest streak ever, an MLB.
1954, they were there. They had one of the great teams in Major League Baseball history and got swept in the World Series by the Giants.
Right. And then we talked about the Cavaliers, and of course you got LeBron James. I mean, a lot of drama in Cleveland, if you think about it. All those different sports have been touched by a lot of different drama. So it's very interesting. Get a shot, folks. Go to YouTube, Northeast Streaming Sports. YouTube,
you got me thinking, Max, just very quickly. I never had a list that I put down. I'm not big on putting lists down on anything, but the greatest teams of all time who didn't win a championship. And if you come to mind, you just mentioned Cleveland, the 1954 Cleveland Indians won 111 games and, like I said, got swept in the World Series, had a great team, a phenomenal pitching staff, Garcia, Lemon, Bello, Wynn. I even remember their rotation. That's how great they are. Who would remember rotation of a 1950 Major League team that lost the World Series, and I could name their starting rotation.
Right,
they had great players like Larry Doby, Al Rosen on the field. I mean, and then you take the Russians that lost to the United States in the Olympics. They were so much better than that USA team, not even close, yet the Russians lost the game, that they, should have won. And then the New England Patriots getting upset by the Giants in the Super Bowl. So it's interesting, the great, great teams of all time, that they just didn't quite close the deal, and it really hurt their place in history. We remember them as great teams, but then they didn't quite get to the point of being the greatest because they didn't close the deal.
Well, you bring that up, and of course we talked about the Browns in '86. Ernest Miner on the 2-yard line fumbles the ball.
No, Mac. That was just another team. That Brown team was now one of the greatest teams of all time in the 1980s.
They were going to the Super Bowl, Jack.
They were just another team in another year. I'm talking about the greatest of all time, Mac.
I hear you. But I guess the Indians weren't the greatest of all time if they got swept, Jack.
Because they got swept and lost in the World Series.
Right.
Had they won the World Series, they would have been regarded as one of the all-time great teams. Had they swept the Giants.
And if Ernest Miner holds on to that ball and they score, they end up playing the Giants in the Super Bowl and not Denver.
No, Mac, you even get everything backwards. They lost by 7 points. If Biner scored, it would have gone into overtime. Okay, and they would have.
So they don't. So they don't go for a 2-point conversion.
When they lost, no, that they didn't have the 2-point conversion then.
They've always had, what are you talking about? Since when haven't they had the 2-point conversion?
In the 1980s, they didn't have the 2-point conversion.
Are you sure about that? Are you positive about that?
Yeah, check it up.
Okay.
But also that team that lost to Denver that second year round would have played the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl, and maybe that Brown team would have beaten them. I don't know. I don't have a clue what would have happened. But when they lost they lost on a 98-yard drive to John Elway.
Yeah.
And the Broncos went to the Super Bowl and played the Giants. Cleveland would have played the Giants instead of Denver. And
you are correct.
I think Cleveland would have given the Giants a better game than Denver.
I agree with that too.
I think they had a much stingier defense, and they would have made it hard on the Giant offense. I think the Giants would have prevailed in a very tough game. Okay? And I think it would have been maybe the Giants would have won by 4 points, 7 points, but it wouldn't have been as easy for the Giants as it was against the Broncos because of Cleveland's defense.
I think you're correct in that. I think they might have beat the Falcons.
They might have, but had Biner held on to the ball, it would have gone into overtime against Denver, meaning it would have been anyone's game. It doesn't mean Cleveland would have, gone there. It would have been 50-50 at that point. And keep in mind, when he fumbled the ball, the game was in Denver. And you still have John Elway. So it would have been a little better than 50-50 that Denver would have won anyway. But, we'll never know.
Yes.
Never know.
John Elway definitely.
I don't hold it against Biner, who rarely fumbled throughout his career.
I don't either. I don't either.
These things happen. I'm more annoyed if a player makes a dumb mental mistake or is showboating, doing something he's not supposed to be doing. But if it's a physical thing, I mean, why didn't he protect the ball? What happened? But these things happen. They're slip-ups.
They do.
Slip-ups. You gotta live with them.
Yeah. I agree. So, Jack, Tatum, the Boston Celtics star, is not upset. He kind of is bothered. I think that's a better word, that he didn't get more playing time. Of course, he's one of the two the dynamic duo that led the Celtics to the championship, and it seemed they didn't find a place or a position for him to get more minutes. Now, of course, he got his gold medal, but he feels he doesn't know whether he's going to go back to Olympics in another 4 years or not. So, I mean, if you're on a team, Jack, and you win the Super Bowl,
Mac, let me stop you. Who said that? Did Tatum say he didn't know he was going to go back to the Olympics in 4 years
he said he'd have to.
He never said that.
He said he was really thinking about whether he was going to go or not. That I just got this morning from an article I just read. So, I mean, this is he feels he kind of feels slighted. Is what he said. He said, of course, he did say Steve Kerr did what he had to do. Blah. He said all the right things. But you could tell by the answers that he's not like, oh, I'm glad I was part of the team. We ran a gold medal. That wasn't said in the article. What was said was, when he was asked about the future Olympics, he said he would have to think about it.
Mac, I know what you're saying, and there's a good chance Tatum is thinking exactly what you're saying. I'm not saying no, he's human, but people post things and they put it out there to get a reaction.
It's not a
They put
post.
words
It's not
in
a post.
Tatum's mouth.
It's
They
not a post.
get it to get a reaction. Tatum did not say anything that he's upset, this and that, but chances are, yeah, he feels a little diminished. Because this is a guy who's, coming off a big year, got a major contract. He's coming from a world championship team. So you're a big star, and now you're basically a role player during the Olympics. And he's looking at the other guys.
A lot of times, Jack, it's not what you say, it's what you don't say. All right. I mean, Halliburton, who was also interviewed, he got less minutes than Tatum. He was very happy. Tatum, being a champion in the NBA, he wasn't glowing. I'm happy that I was happy to be part of the Olympic thing. He said it's humbling. That's one of the words he used. Humbling. Not that I'm excited that I'm part of this team. And as I said, when asked, what are your thoughts about the Olympics? He says, I got to think about it. It wasn't like, yes, I'm definitely going. So sometimes it's not what they say, it's what they don't say, Jack.
That's reading between the lines, I will agree, because if it was a great experience for him, and I'll ask him, what about the Olympics in 4 years? He probably would have said, yeah, I'm gung-ho. I'd like to come back. But sometimes even the greatest players are reluctant for whatever reason. Michael Jordan, he didn't seem too anxious after 1992. He could have came back in 1996. He says, well, let's give someone else a chance. And I guess Tatum was unhappy. Obviously, he was unhappy, the way he was used and so on. And a lot of it has to do, you look at the other guys on the team, why are they playing more than me? Why are they elevated ahead of me? Why are they considered better than me? I'm turned into a bench player here. In a way, I don't need that, he's thinking,
Right.
And it's what is. But the bottom line is, the USA won the gold medal. Would they have been better playing Tatum? And then Tatum played well when he was in there. You got to consider that. He didn't make a shot. Didn't he go something like 0 for 16 the whole tournament?
No. I know he scored points, had assists. He did what Tatum does. He didn't get a lot of playing time, Jack. So, I mean, when they had him in there, no, he didn't go 0 for 16. But, I mean, he did what Tatum does. He assists, rebounded, put points up. What I think, Jack, is Tatum, and not to compare him to LeBron James, but Tatum was basically the same position LeBron James was. And how are you going to take LeBron out? I mean, LeBron had an unbelievable series. Tatum is an assist guy. He's a rebounder. That's what LeBron does. He puts up points when he has to. Tatum is more a facilitator.
Let me ask you.
Go ahead.
They're looking to win the United States. They're looking to win. And if you're trying to keep everyone happy, let me ask you, does it give you as good a chance of winning? Does it give you as good a chance? Could Steve Kerr have played Tatum more, mixed them in more, and that means someone else would have had to sit out? Would it have helped the United States?
I honestly, Jack, I don't think so. I think if he played in place of LeBron or maybe in place of Anthony Davis or something like that, I mean, how do you choose? You got to have chemistry, right? You do have to have chemistry.
But there's going to be a storyline.
You can't just throw different five out there every time you play. You've got to have some kind of chemistry out there where guys work good together. So maybe Tatum doesn't have that chemistry with the other players that LeBron or Anthony Davis had. I don't know, but I know it's hard to play.
Tatum would have had the chemistry, but like you say, you're not really going to sit LeBron. You're not going to platoon him. But that's going to be a storyline going forward. Tatum's a gentleman. He's not going to rip into Steve Kerr going forward. He's just not that type. But when the Celtics play Golden State, you better believe his teammates are going to try to get him the ball more, and it's going to be a storyline. I could see the first game back, Tatum scores 48 points against Golden State. He completely dominates the game.
I would agree with it. I would agree with that.
I mean, going forward, whenever he plays Golden State and Steve Kerr, he's going to want to, kind of stick it to Steve Kerr way, maybe not in a vindictive way, because he doesn't seem to be that type of guy. But Tatum has been slighted a bit. Listen, the MVP of the finals wasn't him. It was Jaylen Brown. And we all know Tatum's a better player than Brown. Okay, Brown's a wonderful player. He's an impact player, obviously. Yeah. But Tatum's the better player of the two. And if you if you're the Celtics and you can only keep one of those two, everyone would say keep Jason Tatum ahead of Jaylen Brown. As much as Jaylen Brown is respected for being a heck of a player, but yet Jaylen Brown is the MVP, and it had to bother Tatum just a tiny bit because people are petty. They like to point to stuff. Oh, well, he wasn't the MVP. People are silly. Like a thing like when they compare players, they say, well, this guy has X amount of rings and this guy got less rings, so the guy with more rings has to be better. They get to be petty in certain ways, and I think not getting the MVP of the finals, being on the bench in the Olympics, but he did. But bottom line is he got the gigantic contract. So, he could count his money all day, but it had to bother him, this Olympic experience, because this isn't what Jason Tatum signed up for. He's a star in this league, and he served as a role player, as a backup in the Olympics. So
yes. So the gymnast that got the bronze, Jordan Childs for the United States, she has to give back her bronze, Jack. A appeal on a floor exercise that they said was done wrong. Knocked out, but I think her name is Babalova. She's a great gymnast. And now the U.S. there's a controversy. Did the U.S. appeal it in time? And then did is it Ukrainia? I think it's Ukrainia with Komenichi. She's part of
Romania,
yeah. She's part of it. She's part of the team over there. So they filed an appeal, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of things swirling around this. And now Jordan Childs has to give back the medal. I guess she doesn't have to. I guess she could refuse if she wanted to. But what do you think of all this? I mean, here we go with drama that one person got slighted in the beginning. Now one person gets slighted at the end.
There are a lot of moving parts here, Mac, that we're going to have to break down. Okay, when Nadia Comaneci rips into the Olympic Committee and everything, they take notice. They're embarrassed because she's an icon, and she said they were playing with the athletes' emotions. What a disgrace it is. This. So they're automatically embarrassed by reversing the call. And the problem was this: the Romanian gymnast was told she won the bronze, and she's celebrating. Then there's an appeal by the United States that they didn't look at Childs' program the way they were supposed to, and they threw out an appeal, and even the United States gymnastic coach didn't think that appeal was going to work. She just threw it out for the heck of it, You throw out an appeal and you hope you get lucky, even though you don't expect to. And she was flabbergasted that they listened to her appeal, and the United States won that appeal and was like, what? Now they elevated Childs' score, and they told the Romanian gymnast, no, you didn't win the bronze medal. After she's celebrating, she was told she was, and Childs is now called did I say gold medal, bronze medal. Childs is now the bronze medalist, okay? And the Romanian gymnast is devastated. You're told you won the bronze and you're celebrating your medal. And Komenici said it's nearly criminal to play with an athlete's emotions like that. And it was. It really was. It reminds me of a ring announcer declaring one fighter the new world champion. And then, oh, by the way, 2 minutes later, oh, no, we misread the scorecards. You're not the champion anymore, and it's taken away. But, okay, so now the Romania is appealing a counter appeal. They said the United States has 1 minute according to the rules to give their appeal to make it legal. Okay? And reportedly, it was 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Right.
If that's true, the rules are the rules. If you have 1 minute to enter an appeal and you're doing 1 minute and 4 seconds, you're late. In reality, you're late with your appeal because the rules are the rules. You might say 4 seconds. Who gives a darn? Whatever. So you're talking about a mess. The Romanian gymnast who was declared the bronze medalist in the beginning, only to have the judges reconsider when they were given an appeal and to give now the bronze to Charles. She, was given a raw deal. And now Childs, who maybe legitimately earned it based on performance, has her bronze taken away based on a technicality of 4 seconds. Right. If indeed it was 4 seconds late. Now, the United States is complaining they have some type of tape that they lodged the protest within a minute, within the rules. I mean, it's all vague. It's not clear. I think this is a unique mess, Mac, where the Olympic Committee make an exception, let them both be bronze medalists. No one would complain then. Everyone would be happy. And if you're going to say, well, how can you have 2 bronze medalists? You have it in boxing. Boxing has 2 bronze medalists. Exactly.
Right, I was just going to say.
In the semifinal matches to see who fights for the gold and silver, the 2 losers don't fight one another for the bronze like in other sports. They don't come back. They're each given a bronze medal. And that's what it should really be, in this case in gymnastics, because it's such a muddled situation at this point. And then there's the X factor, Mac. I think there's an anti-United States sentiment, all in all, throughout the world, because the United States, and I'm talking about Olympics, because the United States is considered a powerhouse. If the United States and a smaller country are going to get into a dispute, usually the judges are going to side with the smaller country because they feel the United States has so much as is. I mean, that's just my perception on the matter.
I mean, it's relevant, Jack. It's a relevant point. I think if it was in the United States, maybe it would be favored towards the United States too. But of course, Ukraine is going through what
Romania
is going through, and part of Europe and what you're saying may be valid. If it was in Los Angeles, what do you think would happen?
I don't know. That might be a little different. I don't know. But what's the fair thing to do? It's not clear cut. Should the Olympic Committee have allowed Childs' protest to begin with, to overturn her score and make it higher and elevate Hunter bronze medal position? But what I don't get is this: if under the rules, and explain, I wish someone would explain this to me. How do you declare someone a bronze medal winner like the Romanian gymnast if the United States still has 1 minute to appeal? Why don't you wait for the minute to be over before officially listing who the medalists are? If it's only 1 minute, let's wait. It's not a day or whatever.
I think
wait to make these things official until they're official. It's like they jumped the gun.
Well, from what I understand, this is the first time in history this has happened, right? So I mean, this is an uncharted water. I mean, they just went too quick. They went too quick because, but they have their own rules. If the other side has a minute to appeal something, right,
don't make it official for the Romanian gymnast and call it a bronze medal. It'll wait the minute. No appeal has been lodged. It's all done. No more time to appeal. Time expired, and that's that.
Okay. It would have made it easier. But anyway, so let's talk a little NFL. Of course, a lot of young quarterbacks, a lot of starters played in preseason, which I was happy about. But a lot of young quarterbacks also got in there. J.J. McCarthy plays. He throws an interception and 2 touchdowns. And, of course, it's preseason. It's vanilla
He played
defense.
very well, McCarthy, but McCarthy played well when he was in there.
Well, I was just, as I was going to say, it's very vanilla defenses. They're not, you're not going against the first-string quarterbacks. You're not seeing coverages. But he played pretty well. He also got injured. And it's what they're talking about is a meniscus that could, Jack, when he has it operated on, it could keep him out from 4 to 6 months. It could be that long. So, I mean, here you go. Sam Darnold would guaranteed be the starting quarterback. I think he would have been anyway, but it kind of slows down the McCarthy transition. And, besides that, Jack, I think a lot of young quarterbacks played good for it being their first time, right? I mean, Jaden Daniels, and some of them were briefer than others. I mean, Jaden Daniels went 2 for 3 and ran for a touchdown. He made one terrific throw. I don't know if that's what you can judge or not. I think that was too small of a sample really to see what Jaden Daniels has. I mean, he made a great throw downfield. A lot of quarterbacks can do that. So I think that was too small a sample. Caleb Williams went 9 for 15, Jack. Led 2 field goal drives. Didn't get it in the end zone, but he looked pretty good.
But you're going against, you said it best, Mac, a moment ago. You used the term vanilla defenses. You're going against certain players who aren't even going to get cut. We're going to get cut by their teams. You're not going against starting defenses. You're going against basically soft defenses. You're going against units that really haven't played together much and aren't going to play together much going forward at this point. And keep this element in mind, too. You have these young quarterbacks. Their coaches are going to want to put them in a position to succeed. So they're going to surround them with certain players who are going to overmatch the players on defense. And that could have been the case with Caleb Williams. I mean, Caleb Williams looked good. Take it for what it is. And I don't know how much we could read into this first game. We were talking before the show a little about Bo Nix. To me, Bo Nix seemed to be struggling, but you might say, well, his numbers look good. But I could say Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl against Seattle, when the Broncos got crushed by the Seahawks, he set a Super Bowl record for passes completed because there were a lot of little dump-offs that looked good, on paper. And the thing about, McCarthy, that's most concerning because that's the most real thing. And what to do with him, if he can make it back late in the season, chances are they might not even play him, but he'll be on the sideline. But let me ask you this, Mac, your opinion. Let's say he has to miss the season with an injury. What would be the difference between him just carrying a clipboard and not playing for the season as opposed to not being able to play? He could still be there, in the huddle, try to pick this up, try to pick that up. He could still maybe gain a little going along, but do the Vikings want him to play late in the season now? That's the question as well.
Yeah. I mean, listen, how well does he come back for the injury? I mean, he's not going to be able to participate in practice in any sort of way if he has that operation. He won't be able to run the drills, won't be able to work with the first-string offense if they let him at all work with it, or even the second-string offense, really. So the reps are going to go down. It's going to make him rusty. You can be in the film room. He could be with the quarterbacks. He could be there studying film during a game and going over it and, talking with Darnold. But he's going to lose a lot physically and rep-wise. So if he does come back at the end of the year, Sam Darnold does get hurt, do they turn to him or do they turn to the other quarterback there?
Well, the other quarterback, Nick Mullins, I guess, who'd be on their roster. This is a great opportunity for Sam Darnold. No one wants to see Jay McCarthy get injured, and I'm sure Darnold isn't happy about it at all. But Darnold is aware that McCarthy isn't looking over his shoulder now to start the season. Because
And
what
maybe
would have
that's
happened if Donald struggled the first couple of games? People would have been calling for
I
McCarthy.
agree.
They're
I
not
agree.
going to be calling for Nicky Mullins to come in. So Donald's going to be given a much longer leash now, to get
Right.
it together. And I think Donald's going to have a good year. That's my opinion. So
Well, we shall see.
I don't think there's going to be an urgency. Well, when's CJ McCarthy coming back? The Viking fans are going to be interested. They're going to want him to come back as soon as they can. But I don't think they're going to be looking for him to come back as the savior this year. Oh, McCarthy, we need him to come give the team a spark, because I think Donald's going to do fine this year. But that remains to be seen. If Donald doesn't do well, this is realistically his last shot to be a starter. Because he had his chance with the Jets, the Panthers, and now the Vikings. It would be 3 strikes and you're out.
And speaking of last chance, a couple quarterbacks didn't look that good. Justin Fields gets in. He sacked twice. He has 2 fumbles. Again, preseason really doesn't matter. I've been saying Russell Wilson's going to start from the beginning. I still think he's going to start, and I still think he'll play the whole season. Trey Lance, he gets in. He goes 25 of 41, no touchdowns. Kind of underwhelming for the Cowboys. They played Cooper Rush, I think, for maybe 4 plays and just let Trey Lance go. And they were hoping that maybe, he could spark something or do something. He did rush for 44 yards, Jack. But a lot of fans, a lot of Cowboy fans, from what I was reading, they thought the performance was underwhelming. So take it for what it's worth. Trey Lance is still a developing quarterback. I don't know how many more years he'll be developing, but I don't think he's going to catch Cooper Rush for the second job.
Well, that's going to be revealing as far as Trey Lance's career going forward. When the Cowboys traded for him a year ago, they gave up a 4th-round draft choice. That's value.
Yeah.
But come to think of it, if Trey Lance was in the draft, he may have been worth a 4th-round pick at that point. And so he came in as the 3rd-string quarterback last year behind Cooper Rush, who was Prescott's backup. If he can't move up and unseat Cooper Rush to be the primary backup this year, then he's looked underwhelming in practice. And it doesn't bode too well for him going forward, for his chances of ever being a starter in this league.
I agree. Good morning, David. Glad to have you aboard.
Hey, David.
This morning, some Jets news. Hassan Riddick wants to be traded. He calls for it again. The Jets tell him no way. He's not getting traded. He's gonna either come back for his contract this year, or he's gonna continue getting fined. Right now, Jack, his fines are up close to $1 million for missing all these practices and trainings and all this good stuff. There is a nuclear option. I don't know if you ever heard of this. There's a nuclear option that the Jets have. If he refuses to play all year, the contract's valid next year. So that's in the agreement with the NFLPA, meaning that he still has to come back next year. And if he does not, if he plays, that $24 million is minus all his fines. So they would get him cheaper. So it's not like Hassan Riddick can just sit out and next year he can move along. The Jets have the rights to him next year. So Hassan Riddick, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's thinking. When he came, he said, I'm going to do my best for the Jets. I'm going to give it all, blah, blah, blah. And now he's still requesting the trades. Jets manager says, whatever you want to do, buddy. We're concerned about the players here with us right now.
Mac, I want to see teams start taking a harder line stance, a lot harder line stance. Listen, I'm forgiving into the athlete sometimes. If he's been with the team for years, he's contributed a lot to the community. He's been the ultimate team player for a franchise, like Chris Jones with the Chiefs. You tried to work it out. He's been great. Aaron Donald, who just retired, a player like him with the Rams. You try to work with these guys, and sometimes even bend over backwards because you know what they've meant to the franchise. Guy's got a contract. And Hassan Riddick, he really doesn't have leverage. This is his leverage. He won't be on the field for the Jets. It might affect the Jet defensive unit. So he's feeling, well, they need me so bad, this and that. And the Jets would love for Hassan Reddick to be there. But the heck with him. Let him sit out. Fine him. Stay home if you want to. Use the nuclear option for next year. He has no leverage. Let him retire if he wants to. Call these players bluffs. You got a deal. Now, from what I understood, the Jets were willing to work along with Hassan Reddick to a degree, meaning his contract isn't guaranteed this year. And if Hassan Reddick said, look, this is the problem I have, guaranteed money. Okay, I'm not asking for more money. I'm not coming and playing with a contract that's not guaranteed, and work along with me. I actually think the Jets would have guaranteed his contract for this year. They would have guaranteed the money, or guaranteed most of it at least, and worked something out with him. I would have been sympathetic to Hassan Reddick if his whole issue was, I don't have guaranteed money. My contract's not guaranteed. I get injured. I can get cut. I'm not coming to camp. I'm not playing. I don't care. I'm not asking for more money. I'm not asking for an extension. I'm willing to play off when I'm out this year. I just want my money guaranteed, and that would call the Jets bluff. He's getting close to $15 million. If the Jets said, okay, we're guaranteeing $10 million of that money, that's absolutely guaranteed no matter what, I think the Jets would have done that, by now. But that wasn't good enough. He wants to be paid more money like the top defensive lineman in the league, because his contracts become outdated now. And the Jets are under no obligation to do that. Or should they?
Well, I think you got to blame the Jets too here, Jack, because they knew before he went over there that he wanted a new contract, right? And the Jets made the trade anyway. So that wasn't too smart to me. I mean, if Reddick is telling the Eagles, listen, I want a new contract, or I'm not playing, and the Jets knew that, that's not too smart either. I mean, why did the Jets look somewhere else? I think that, the Jets did a bad job there too. Now they own it. And, the nuclear option that I talked about forwards to next year, you just have a bad situation now where you're not going to get the player you wanted, and the player that looked like he wanted to go there and thought maybe he could get a new contract with the Jets is very unhappy. So I don't think the Jets did themselves a favor either, Jack.
Well, reportedly, he may have went back on his word or miscommunicated to the Jets, or the Jets may be misunderstood. I'm not sure what the communication is, because if he told the Jets he was going to play under the terms of the contract as is, they should state that clearly, the conversations that they had with him prior to this. But the Jets didn't do that. Or they should have maybe worked something out with the Eagles that if he holds out, he doesn't play XXXX, that third-round draft pick becomes a fifth-round draft pick.
Right,
Something should have been worked out. The Jets apparently was so ecstatic to get Hassan Reddick that they didn't do their complete due diligence. Because keep in mind, they lost Bryce Huff, and he was replacing Bryce Huff, Reddick, and he was actually an upgrade. A slight upgrade. Yeah. So it's the situation. How it might have resolved itself, Mac. He's getting hit with a lot of fines. All I know, he's going to show up at some point during the season, and the Jets are going to say the fines stay. We're not renegotiating this. We're not extending you. Those fines stay, but we're going to guarantee you most of your remaining money. You join us. It works itself out. Also, keep this in mind. It's a possibility he just doesn't want to be in training camp. And he's thinking, okay, I'm going to see whether they're going to work out a new deal. If I lose the money in fines, I'll show up before the first game of the season. I'll be there. That might be his thought. I'll keep myself in shape. I mean, it's all a game of chicken kind of at this point.
I could see that, Jack, if you played for a team for 4 or 5 years, 6 years, you know what they're doing. When you go into a new team, that's kind of stupid. I mean, you still got to learn the plays. You still got to work with the unit. You still got to develop chemistry. You still got to know what guys do what. I mean, I think that if Reddick was with the Jets for 4 years and did this, I understand that he doesn't want to participate in training camp or he doesn't want to play in preseason. Well, he's a new player. So I don't know if that holds water or not. But let's talk about someone else here, CeeDee Lamb. Jerry Jones clarifies his position with CeeDee Lamb. He said that it wasn't, his original statement was that it wasn't an urgent matter with CeeDee Lamb. And, of course, everybody went crazy in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb posts something. Jerry Jones backpedals, says, I didn't mean that we don't want CeeDee Lamb and that we don't want to sign CeeDee Lamb, but he's not going to play this week in the game is what I was saying. So Dallas has a history, Jack. They did it with Zeke Elliott. Remember when they had that contract coming up to Zeke who, Jerry Jones said. Zeke who, like, I don't know who you're talking about. Dallas waits to the last minute to sign their big players. And CeeDee Lamb is under contract this year. So it's not
Exactly
a mandatory thing, right? But, and this is what I want to get your thoughts on. You have CeeDee Lamb, who's in his last year, Dak, who's in his last year, McCarthy, who is in his last year. How does the team feel about that going forward in the season? I mean, are they going to work harder to get their contracts? Or is McCarthy saying you're going to replace me anyway? Is Dak saying, well, I'm going to go somewhere else anyway? CeeDee Lamb says, well, you really don't want me anyway. That would screw the Dallas Cowboys season up royal this year, Jack.
Jerry Jones has done nothing wrong at all. I don't see why people are getting on Jerry Jones. They want to make him out to be the villain always. Let these players and coaches have a great season. Let them go free agent then. It's an open market. No one's forcing them to sign. Let's say they decide they don't want to sign with the Cowboys no matter what. They're becoming a free agent. They're entitled to do that. They're on the contract. And then if they become a free agent, Jerry Jones is going to be forced to cough up the money to keep them. Why should the team take all the risks? I don't get this. As far as McCarthy goes, he's been 12-5 the last 3 seasons. I mean, he shouldn't be have his job security questioned all the time. It just shouldn't be. But Bill Belichick's out there. People are going to do it. So be it. You can't stop those rumors. All Jerry Jones said about CeeDee Lamb, we're not in a rush to get it done. Why should he be in a rush? It's not like he's going to become a free agent next week. He's on the contract for the year. What happens if CeeDee Lamb early in the season gets injured, suffers a bad injury, he's out for the year? A terrible injury. They're stuck with a mega contract to him. The Cowboys are waiting it out. And CeeDee Lamb is not the best receiver in the NFL. There are few guys that are better than him. Justin Jefferson is better than him. Okay? I mean, Jamar Chase is better than him, and he's holding out with the Bengals, but at least he's attending practices. He's just not playing. He wants to be part of the team best he can. But any of these players who are under contract, you're under no obligation to extend these guys. You're under no obligation at all. I mean, there's a risk involved if you give them the big deal. And Jerry Jones is waiting to the right time. And Jerry Jones, too, knows the price might go up later on. He might have to pay more money.
Hey, but Jack, again, I mean, you want your team to have chemistry. You want your team to feel good about themselves. And I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm playing devil's advocate. You got 3 major people in Dallas Cowboys that are in their last year. And I don't know how that's going to affect the team going forward. That's all I'm saying. I mean, if I'm playing for the Cowboys and I think McCarthy won't be there next year, I'm going to have a new coach anyway. If I'm Dak Prescott and I'm saying, listen, you don't want to sign me? I'm better than Trevor Lawrence. I've got more on my resume than Jordan Love has. All right, screw you.
No. They're in no position, the players, to underperform. Because if they don't play great, they're not going to get a great contract.
I'm not
You
saying
have the
underperform.
owner has the players over the barrel.
I'm not saying underperform, Jack. I'm saying, listen, I mean, even if we win a championship game next year, why would I want to come and play with you? Why would I want to be your quarterback?
There are not going to be many opportunities to get the mega money to go elsewhere.
Dak Prescott's getting mega money from half the teams in the league, Jack.
No, not even close to half the teams. There are a handful of teams. I got to admit, there were a handful of teams, but there were a handful of deals. I could understand there's a premium on quarterbacks, like the Raiders, for example. Dak Prescott would be a major signing for them. Okay,
I guess same way, Jack. CeeDee Lamb will get as much money as DJ Moore. Easy.
Perhaps.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not listening, Jack. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm being devil's advocate here that it could affect the team next year. That's all I'm saying.
It could.
Yeah.
But let me tell you another thing too, Mac. The Cowboys could turn around and there could be another player too in the free agent market who's available, who they could decide, we're going to give him the money for a couple of years.
They didn't do it this year, Jack.
They didn't have to because they have CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott.
But they did. Dallas has a lot of holes, Jack. They have a lot of holes this year. The running game, the defensive line, they have a lot of holes. They really do. And they should have. I kind of
wonder, Mac, I kind of wonder that if you mentioned that, why didn't the Cowboys seriously bid on Saquon Barkley, offer him more money than the Eagles? Not pay attention to the running back scale and offer him a few million more than the Eagles? He would have been dynamic there at Dallas. You kind of wonder. But listen, indications are that Jerry Jones is going to sign those guys. Micah Parsons, Lamb and Prescott, because they haven't signed the free agents. Indications are Jerry Jones is waiting, and then he's going to get it done.
He has a history of that, no doubt. Let's get through some of this stuff a little quicker because we get going. Injury news: Detroit Lions sensational running back last year, rookie Jamar Gibbs left practice in a hamstring injury. Deshaun Watson will be starting this week, Jack, first time since he got a broken shoulder last year, so he's going to be playing. He's going to get some reps here in the next practice game, which I'm glad to see. Chief wide receiver Hollywood Brown won't need a surgery. He did dislocate his shoulder, but he doesn't need surgery, so he should be getting back pretty soon for them. In college, Jim Harbaugh, I'll stop for a second here, is not attending the Michigan opener. Surprise, surprise, Jack.
Why should he? He's no longer the Michigan coach.
They do it. The pro coach, then they leave. They go back for the home opener. A lot of coaches do it. But, I
don't think it's the warmest feeling to Harbaugh. I think it's mixed. They won a national championship. He's popular amongst the people in Michigan, but I don't think he's too popular at the university with the heads because of the mess, that they left, which he takes no accountability for.
I agree. Major League Baseball, of course, the Yankees and Baltimore still fighting at the top. Boston's still in third place right now, 65-50. Cleveland's in first in the Central. Minnesota and Kansas City are kind of fighting for that second spot. Houston.
Minnesota's only 3.5 games behind the Indians. They're
very close. KC's like a game behind Minnesota right now, Jack. Houston won again, so they take about a one game lead over Seattle.
1.5.
Yeah.
They're in a winning streak, the Astros.
Yes,
They've won like 7 in a row, yeah.
National East, you have the Phillies who have lost their 5th home game in a row. They're in a little bit of a tailspin right now.
They got a 6-game cushion over the Braves, so
right. Yeah, but they gotta do something here. They're losing at quite a bit. The Mets are still a little bit above 500. Milwaukee's at 67-52. They're like seven and a half games ahead of St. Louis right now at 500. How about the West, Jack? The National League West, Arizona, San Diego, both are 9-1 in the last 10 games.
They are surging. That's
my
story. Can the Dodgers hold them off? It was a gimme that the Dodgers were going to win the division, especially they had such a big lead. And San Diego and Arizona, man, oh man.
Incredible.
If they've been playing well. They've been playing over their heads.
I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. I shouldn't say I'm surprised. But for Arizona to continually, after last year, a lot of people think it was a fluke, are back in the race again this year. It shows me something about their young team there. It shows me that they instead of falling off like the Texas Rangers basically have done. So real quick, in New York Yankees land, Soto gets 3 home runs in last night's game to propel the Yankees to win. He says he loves hitting in front of Aaron Judge, which makes sense to me, right? I mean,
you kind of wonder what Soto's thought process is going to be as a free agent beyond the money. He's not going to be in a better situation elsewhere, at least the next few years, than he would with the Yankees hitting in front of Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the best order, and he has the best spot in baseball in the batting order, Soto. Imagine that, hitting in front of Aaron Judge. You're going to get pitches, to see to hit, because they're not going to want you on base. They're not going to want to walk you or pitch around you and put you on base for Aaron Judge next.
Yeah.
So, man, oh, man, I mean, I would think Soto realizes that and appreciates it. He hits 3 homers yesterday. And to give you an idea of how good Aaron Judge is, no one even notices he goes 2 for 3. He still gets a couple of hits very quietly, silently, but that's Aaron Judge this year.
Yes.
I mean, he's been one of the great hitters in the history of baseball this season.
Yeah, he's not just hitting home runs. He leads the leagues in home runs, but he's got a heck of a batting average too, and he's driving in runs too. I mean, he's doing this at an unbelievable clip for this year.
And consider this, Mac. Soto gets up with no one on base. No one's going to walk Soto, as great as he is. Judge will get up, no one on base. Teams are walking him.
No doubt. Let's see. Boston won last night. The Mets lost. Ohtani hits his 37th home run of the year. Old timers game, Jack. They're bringing back a lot of players from the 2009 World Series team to be at the old timers game. You know, the Yankees, this is a huge thing. I think it's their 75th or something crazy like that.
Are they playing the game, Mac, or are they just having a ceremony? I don't think they play the game anymore.
Why not? They all can play. I mean, Jeter, Posada, they still can play.
Been doing it.
I know. Everything changes, Jack.
Not so simple. When you've been away a while, you really lose your muscle memory and everything involved. Mac, the other day what happened to this? I'm near a fence. I'm walking by a ball field. The ball was over the fence. I want to throw it over the fence, for the kids playing. And the fence is nearby, and I give it what I thought was a hard throw. It barely makes it over the fence. And I said, darn it, I haven't thrown a ball in maybe 15, 20 years. I mean, man, the ball went nowhere.
Yeah, you got to warm up. I mean, you got to.
If I tried to have it go somewhere with all my might, chances I pull a muscle.
You got to warm up. I did the real quick story before we get to the last thing I want to talk about. I was down with the semi-pro team in Enfield, and I was showing the quarterback some drills to go through to warm up. Norm Snead taught me these rules. That's how old they are, right? These different things. So I go to make my first throw, Jack, and went 10 feet. I went 10 feet, and I'm like, you got it. Of course, I'm determined now. I got to get my arm back, and then I was able to do it. But embarrassing, yes, very embarrassing.
Mac, they had a thing a lot of years ago at the Goodwill games at Booth, where you threw the ball like a pitcher. They check your speed. I warmed up. I let it fly, Mac. 36 miles per hour.
Yeah, I believe it. It's you're right. You got to continually do this to stay good at it. Real quick, Jack. I I read a very interesting article about the Saudi Arabians getting involved in boxing, what their plan is. There's I guess he's royalty over there, a Turkey Shakeen, I think it is, a sheik.
They call him His Excellency.
They do. I don't. But he has plans for boxing to bring all the contenders in here. Two things I want to ask you about. One, I read the article and they said the other promoters are not making comments. So Top Rank, Eddie Hearns, Golden Boy, what do you think they're doing behind closed doors right now? Because if this is successful, if the Saudi Arabians are going to do this and get them fighters, what's going to happen to the rest of the promoters?
The rest of the promoters apparently are very happy because they're getting well compensated by His Excellency and the Saudis. That's why their fighters are fighting on their shows. When the Saudis have a big show, the other promoters are there. They're there. They had a tournament. Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, best, of five. They're five guys, fighters from each of the promotional groups, one against one another. And a team thing. De La Hoya saying nice things about, Turkey. Bob Arum is good with everything because they're paying big money out. And the promotional group is getting big money, and they're like kind of basically farming their star fighters out for a given fight for the Saudis to exhibit.
The article I'm reading, Jack, was that
who the writer was? Who's the writer?
It's New York Times. Check it out. It's in the New York Times. They're trying to get the top fighters in their position in two different divisions. They want to get these fighters in Saudi. They want to have their own little stable. So this is where I'm saying, what would they be thinking? Because if they can offer all this money to these fighters, and I mean, look what happened with Crawford. All right, he fights Matrolov. I hope I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
After the fight, Crawford wins a close decision. He wants to fight Canelo. Well, His Excellency says, no, I'm calling it a draw. If you want to fight Canelo, you got to fight him again. He's actually telling Crawford that he's not going to pay him money to fight Canelo until he does a rematch because he thinks that fight was that good. That's kind of a lot of power, Jack.
Well, you're talking about they don't want to do business with Canelo, the Saudis, because it's going nowhere, their discussions with him. And Canelo's big enough that he could go independent to an extent. And I don't see any problem right now because the fights are being made. The big fights, the good fights that haven't been made,
which I like.
That was difficult to make.
Right. Which I'm enjoying. I mean, that's the way it should be anyway. I mean, the way it's been is they keep their fighters in a stable and they fight within their company there or within their promotional thing, and we don't see the best fights. This may change that. What I'm asking you, Jack, if this is successful and Saudi does end up signing away these top 100 contenders or whatever the article said, I would have to go back and look at it again. If they do sign all these great contenders, what happens to Top Rank? What happens to Eddie Hearn? What happens to Golden?
There'll be enough where they could continue business, sign young fighters. Saudis are not going to be able to sign to everyone, and if they throw incredible money at all the fighters, then the fighters come out ahead, and they're going to make the best fights available. So I don't think the sport gets hurt.
Okay, I think it could go either way. I think it gets better, like you said, with the best fights. Everybody wants to see that. But I'm just saying, maybe these promoters start changing their way a little bit. Maybe they cross enemy lines and make fights like they should have been in the beginning. Maybe.
Well, we'll see.
Yes. Okay, Jack, thanks. I had to talk to somebody about it because it was very interesting to me. We may have a new boxing commissioner. I've been rooting for that all year. We'll see. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in. Been a great show. Had a lot of fun. Glad to have Jack back. After us, of course, you got Coffee and Sports on the Roku channel. Stay on the Roku channel all day. Wednesday is back full. We appreciate you guys coming out and watching us and commenting. And we'll see you soon on the Mac and Jack Sports Show.